does not get.
Gary Quackenbush is sponsored by the Word on Wealth Radio Network.
This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary is a San Diego financial solutions attorney, protecting people like you. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions. Preserve your family's financial future. Now,
you're live.
Ken on. Hey, welcome to the Word on Wealth. It's
Yes.
Wednesday. Everybody knows what day it is. It's Wednesday because you've been anticipating. I've been talking all week about how excited I am to get to Wednesday, not because it's hump day or the middle of the week where I'm going to be sliding downhill from here on, but because we have Ken Pecus. Ken and I have been we've been taking turns vacationing, and they just happened to be a kind of opposite. So we ended up not being live for a while. So we're really, really excited to be back together on the air. Ken, how you doing today?
Hello, Gary. I'm doing absolutely great. Surprisingly, coming back from vacation, huh?
Oh my gosh. I'm still walking around. I don't know. I still kind of am in this fog. I was out doing my regular thing, mountain biking this morning and having this great time. And I just, through my head is swirling all the great times we had on vacation. And it's just fun. I just love to be outside.
Yeah, that's the whole part, the vacation part. There was a little bit of phone action when I was outside, but hey, it's much easier to be outside when the temperature is like, 88 degrees and it gets dark at 9 p.m. and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, so great. The thing that happened on the trip that I was on, I was with my whole family, my 12 grandkids and everybody, and it was really fun. And we had no phone service. It was like, I know that usually would freak me out, but it's kind of like I couldn't make a call if I wanted to. And so calls wouldn't come in because we were out, anyway, it was really cool. And the even cooler thing was that my teenage grandsons who have cell phones that like to use them a lot couldn't get phone access. And they were so attentive. It was crazy, Ken. They were so attentive to the family and to Cheryl and I, and we got to spend lots and lots of time with them. It was really super cool. So
I think you just gave me an idea. I think I'm going to try to put my phone down on a Friday afternoon, lock it up, and just roll the dice and see what happens, not listening to a phone until Monday morning. I might just try that just for fun.
You've been doing this for what, 30 plus years, right?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. I've been an attorney about as long as you've been doing real estate. And so it's like, I'm to that point where it used to be, I used to go with, but I was, a Boy Scout leader and stuff like that. We'd be out in the woods doing all this stuff. And I would literally, when cell phones first came out, I finally felt comfortable that I could actually leave as long as I could call in every day. And I would be hiking to top of some mountain somewhere. They're going, Quackenbush, where are you going? I'm trying to get to the top of the mountain somewhere to try to get enough bars where I can call my office. And it was the stupidest, like every single day on my vacation, I thought, my gosh, it's ridiculous. And now I'm to the point where it's like, when I leave the office, I'm just out of the office, and the world has to take care of itself for a little while, and it tends to. So,
well, definitely, except when you're a real estate agent, those emotional breakdowns tend to happen after work and in the evening, and sometimes they really need to talk to you. So,
yeah, I know.
I'm not brave enough to leave the phone. Gotta have that therapy line there.
Well, and that's the thing that has been wonderful using you, when you were helping us as the agent. I mean, the deal's going through and it's like, is it going to work? Is it going to not? And all that. And you were the one that was worrying about it. So to me, in fact, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like the phone call, like, oh gosh, I'm in Hawaii on this vacation, and I get this phone call from Ken, and I go, okay, there's only two people I'm going to answer the phone from, and one is Ken on my vacation. It was funny, but that's because you work all the time. I mean, even you go off to Argentina and you're making phone calls to, it's like insane. Anyway. So we have the coolest thing to talk about, you guys. If you want to ask Ken a question directly, it's 888-344-1170. You can call into the show today and get your question answered. Ken and I have been going back and forth a little bit about a conversation that he had on Instagram with somebody. And I'm going to ask these specific questions, and we've got Ken all the way through the hour. So you can call in anytime, 888-344-1170. But I got some questions for him specifically, which I thought were really important to get answered. And so let me get started with that, and we do our thing. So first of all, the first part of the question was basically, hey Ken, I was listening to your show with Gary, and I have a question for you. And she was commenting about I think it was a she. You Ken had made a comment. We were talking about the real estate market and the pricing changing. The price changes to be slower at the higher end and decent in the low end. And then we were talking about how some people feel like they can't afford, which they really can afford. And then we were talking about dealing with agents in a particular market. So I want to kind of get started on that. Like, what does the market feel like now? What happens with price movement and higher end, lower end, and get into that a little bit. And then eventually we'll get into her specific question about why houses are priced like they are.
Got it. There's a lot to unpack with this whole conversation. So I think the best place is, like you said, let's talk about what's going on, what's happened in the last month or so.
Yeah.
Because between the debt ceiling, between the new jobs report last week, everything that's going on, it's every day is a new adventure, I would say, in the financial markets, which real estate is definitely a part of. So coming back from vacation and then also looking back, the whole month of May, usually by the time in San Diego,
2 minutes,
California, when you get to May, you start having a reversal of inventory issues, meaning that in the beginning of the year, inventory can't keep up with the normal buyers. There's usually a big buyer surge in the spring in Southern California. And then by the time you get to like late April and into May and into June, the people that were just kind of sitting there with their houses, they see the market's been great. They go, oh, okay, great. This is the year to sell. The kids are getting out of school. We can do it during the summer, and let's get this all done. And systematically, what ends up happening is you get an increase of inventory, and that hair-raising, barnstorming spring of, hey, do multiple offers or whatever, slows down. And in general, the summer goes very slow until you get to
about a minute,
usually quite dead because everybody's on vacation. So I took a little look at what happened because now we've rotated to June, and but it's really interesting. That's not happening, and the inventory continues to shrink, getting almost to a critical standpoint. But it's not that new inventory is not coming on; it's that it's getting absorbed just as fast and more than the new inventory that's coming on. And this is definitely something new right now.
Well, that's interesting. There's always something new, but we'll talk about that. What we're going to do, I give you identification again. We got Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. His direct phone number is 619-977-8419. We're talking with Ken Pecus. He's on with us every Wednesday, all the way to the top of the hour. If you got questions for him, the direct line here to the show is 888-344-1170. So we're talking about inventory, sales, some new stuff coming up. And we're going to continue that coming up next here on the Word on Wealth with Ken Pecus.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is Faith-Based Investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christian families don't understand this one thing. The money that you're saving for retirement helps fund the abortion industry as well as other liberal anti-family causes. It's the sad, dirty little secret of American investing world. And here's the good news, though. You probably also didn't know that just a few minutes of your time, and we'll screen and clean your investments for you. There's no cost, no obligation. Learn the truth about your own investment mix. Then the choice is yours. Remember, the word says when God's money is in the hands of the righteous, the people rejoice. Well, we also are fiduciary investment advisor representatives. That means that our firm makes a pledge to always act in your best interest. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com Download a free copy of my book, Faith-Based Investing, or call me at 931-RETIRED. And please don't forget, listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, our listeners are asking about trust disputes and whether or not they'll actually get the inheritance they're expecting.
I think that's a scary thing for most people because they feel like, if I ask my successor trustee, hey, where's my inheritance? You kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being like rude or whatever, inconsiderate. But I'm telling you, if time goes on, if it's been like 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, that's too long to have heard nothing. You're supposed to hear fairly soon, like within a couple of months after someone's passed, you should be hearing from that successor trustee. And if you're not, I think there's an issue we need to address. So it's not like we're going to go screaming in there, filing lawsuits. We kind of use gentle nudges like, hey, do you know what you're doing? Successor trustee, we kind of want to help you do your job, and we help beneficiaries kind of get things straightened out.
Call or click to request your free initial consultation. GQlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST, GQlaw.com.
Who will you trust with the biggest financial decision of your lifetime? If you're planning to buy or sell a home in San Diego County, do what I do and work with the true San Diego real estate experts. Ken Pecus and the Pecus Group helped me and my family. They can help you. This is Gary Quackenbush of The Word on Wealth. You hear Ken every week here on The Word on Wealth. He's our expert. He's got integrity, exceptional service, deep knowledge of the San Diego, Coronado, and South Bay regions. These are just some of the reasons that Ken Pecus has completed hundreds of transactions. He manages a powerful team of professionals at the Pecus Group. From single-family attached homes to luxury high-value waterfront properties to apartment buildings, Ken Pecus is ready to help you avoid problems and costly mistakes. Learn more online at kenpecus.com. That's Ken Pecus, Pecus.com. Or call 619-977-8419.
DRE number 010566969, brokered by eXp Realty.
No
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST. Or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's GQlaw.com, 855.
You're live.
Right. We are here Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everybody. And Pecus is our expert guest today. And I'm just so happy to have him on. His number directly is 619-977-8419. 619-977-8419. If you call me and say, Gary, who should I use for a real estate agent? I'm going to say Ken Pecus. Gary, who should I use to buy a house? Ken Pecus. Sell a house? Ken Pecus. Anything I'm going to give to Ken because he's been that good for my family and me personally, and it's been awesome. I could not recommend anybody any higher than Ken. All right, Ken, we are talking about the inventory levels and what's changed now. Usually June, things kind of speed up, but we still have an issue with inventory. So keep talking about that. Help our listeners understand about where the market is right now.
Okay, great. So I was thinking about, the questions that came through Instagram. So I think this next little part of an explanation in the background will actually lead into answering some of those questions a little bit.
Okay.
So our inventory problem right now, and I'm going to qualify this as saying this is my personal view and my professional view. It's not coming from some national economist, but I've reviewed this with other agents, and I think a lot of us have the same kind of feelings. So what's created this problem, and people like to think it's because interest rates are so high that it's hard for buyers to buy properties or whatever. That's really not what we're seeing on the ground. Right now, interest rates potentially are the problem, but it's actually, believe it or not, not the problem of the buyers, because there's two segments that is creating this inventory issue: supply, demand. So either your supply is off or your demand is off. Well, right now I can tell you demand has returned. So most buyers have come to the realization that this is the way life is going to be. They're not going down to free money anytime in the near future, i.e., 2% interest rates or 3% interest rates, that we're going to have a more reasonable interest rate level moving forward. Mm-hmm. So buyers in general and people that are borrowers have actually kind of come to that conclusion. They're good. The segment of our inventory society that has not come to that are the existing owners of properties that are sitting on properties that are encumbered by 2 and 3 and maybe even 4% loans. They're like, wait, if I sell right now and I go to buy, I'm already with a 3% interest rate. I'm going to have to buy at a 7% interest rate. That's I can't do that. That's going to do this or that. And so that's one of the biggest things, in my opinion, and quite a few other top agents' opinions, that's holding people from selling. So when you have a demand, buyers have accepted interest rates, and you have a supply, sellers have not accepted the interest rates. It's creating this imbalance. And the only thing that's keeping it not from being imbalanced is the stuff that will eventually get the sellers to come on board. And the stuff that's keeping it imbalanced is that you have people that have passed, you have people that have relocated, you have people that have lost their jobs and have to sell it, and things like that. So there's some definitive things that people are selling, and because they have to sell. Okay. What we need for the inventory to catch up is people that are selling because they want to sell, because they want to buy something else.
Interesting. Okay, so you have you have home sales because, like you're saying, it's funny. That's my industry, right? Somebody dies, the house is going to be sold because kids typically don't want to have 4 brothers and sisters sharing, one home or something like that. So then you got that inventory, or people that have to sell, people that have to buy. That's kind of the have to inventory, where it's not just like this discretionary trying to make a good financial decision. But then we have those that are sitting in a house where they realize if they sell their home with a 4% interest rate, they got to buy something with a 6 or 7%. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
and you can see why buyers have come around first, because generally a buyer is renting most of the time. And they've come around faster because they stalled for a while last summer, but then they realized, hey, my rents are not stalling. Wait, you're not waiting for me to bring the interest rates down and my rents are going to continue to go up? So finally, they just came in and said, it's going to be better to stabilize my payment structure, whether that's as a mortgage or a rent, than run the gamut with the rental market where rents keep going up with inflation. So buyers came full back in with acceptance. And the sellers, in my opinion, will absolutely accept this, because what happens? The other things happen. Babies happen, graduations happen, divorces happen. You have work promotions, you have relocations, right when the city and then you have just basic, okay, interest rates are not going to go down, and I really don't want to live in this house anymore. I need a yard that I can have my dog. And people just finally say, all right, I'm going to move up or I'm going to move down, whichever way you're going to go, but I'll go ahead and make this change. And I realize this is the way life is. That is going to gradually come around. It's sort of started to, from what I can tell, but still nowhere near it needs to. And I think give it a little time and we'll go back to a balanced market where we can just see what's going on. And in the meantime, on the other side, we hear the financial news every day, in a market where we're constantly hearing that, from the political standpoint that, hey, this is a problem, what we're seeing in reality is we're seeing like the latest jobs report. We'll see what happens next week when the CPI comes out. But my guess is we're still going to see inflation. I think the Fed will pause maybe 1 month, but even that's up in the air now with the latest jobs report. And we're probably going to see interest rates go well into the upper sevens, maybe even low eights. And that's just a normal thing. And the sooner you as a consumer accept what that situation is, the sooner you can start making money and using it to your advantage and leveraging the current economic situation to help your current situation.
You know, it's interesting. The way you're talking is, instead of speculating, like sitting back and saying, okay, I'm rubbing my crystal ball. I think I'm listening to the news and surfing the internet and listening to the right things. And I think rates are going to do this and that. And so then I'm going to wait until this thing happens because that's when I'm going to make my move. It's almost like, you know, the thing that interests me about, you know, being, you know, partnered with you on this show is the way you talk about real estate. Like Anthony on my show tomorrow talks about money. And it's because a lot of people think, you know, real estate is housing and I'm trying to get a low price. And that's part of the question we're going to be talking about about this question that we have on Instagram. But it's like, I'm trying to get the lowest price possible. And why is it? But that, but you're talking about, well, but if you wait too long and interest rates are going up, you could have been back here invested in this and you could have already been offsetting some of that inflation. And, you know, if you wait, so it's like all of it, like the financial market seems to be like an emotional thing. The market moves emotionally. The market decides, you know, whether it's time to buy, time to sell. This is a good time. Okay, we can't wait any longer. We've got to move now. And just the market always makes these adjustments. But if you don't have somebody that really understands the market, it can be frightening. I mean, I'll admit, Ken, I talk to a lot of real estate agents that are just struggling financially because as soon as the interest rates go up, they go, oh, there's no homes to sell and the economy is coming to pieces and nobody wants to buy a home. And I go, dude, with that kind of attitude, nobody's going to buy one from you. You know, it's like with
well,
anything,
I can give you some.
right?
I can give you an example with my agents that work for me. And yeah, of course, we're dealing with the same thing, low inventory and everything. But for instance, San Diego County currently, it's averaging somewhere between 25 and 2,700 actual sales a month. Now that's a third of what you know in the high times you sell.
Yeah.
But 25 to 2,700 actual sales a month tend to have two sides to the sale. So you have somewhere like 5,000 transaction sides that are actually happening in a real estate agent world. And so my answer to everybody is saying, well, okay, I know there's only 5,000 sides and there's 15,000 agents in San Diego County. Don't you think you at least are good enough to get one or two of them or three of them? Aren't you that better than the rest of the real estate agents? And that usually does the trick for my agents because we're definitely that. So we'll go get it. So all of a sudden it's not about inventory. It's just about being the best and being competent and being on top of things so that you are representing the right market segment. Exactly.
No, I love that. That's just so true. And it's that way. I don't know. Just to me, just seems that's kind of the way life is. It's just, you know, you just got to do the best you can, but don't just sit back and curl in a corner and go, oh, the market's terrible. The sky is falling. It's like, that's why that's, you know, it's a fairy tale. The sky's not falling. It's just, you know, if there's a block falling on towards your head, you just need to move out of the way. Don't get squashed by it and complain that you know, it's just funny.
Well, and it's definitely not bad if you're a seller. I'm telling you, if you are sitting on property that is not working for you and you can redeploy it into, I don't care, securities, different things, other real estate, rental property, which I like, that type of thing. There is, the market right now is excellent for people that would be considering selling. And even if you're thinking about selling and then buying, the extra money you make right now with the market being this good in so many
2 minutes.
especially the upper middle to lower segments right now. The as a seller, it's just like we talked on our last conversation. It's just rock solid. The extra money you can make can easily offset some interest rate diversion you might have to do with either buy downs or subsidizing some of the little extra payments, which, by the way, the interest rate in general, depending upon what you're doing, so much of it is you can write off depending upon on your taxes, depending upon your own personal situation.
Exactly.
So you just think of it more broadly, and it kind of comes then down to the question, I think, that came through Instagram, which I think maybe with this background, we can kind of talk directly about all the nuances of the topics that were brought up by this listener.
Okay. And we're going to do that coming up on here on the Word on Wealth. I want to let you know, we were talking to Ken Pecus, a friend of mine, has helped my family, helps me. He does everything real estate. He's got a tremendous team, super fun team to work with. I know it's like, well, but wait a minute, they're my professionals. I know, but they're fun to work with, very intelligent. You get to work with some really super top professionals when you work with Ken Pecus at the Pecus Group. His number, direct line to him, is 619-977-8419. All right. Coming up next, we are going to answer some questions that came in on Instagram, and they're really cool. It's questions like, well, I have an agent and I asked my agent to do this, and they said, no, I'm not going to do that. And you think, well, wait a minute, this is my agent. Am I not entitled to boss this person around? And Ken's responses are going to be really awesome. So you got to listen up on this. If you got friends that need to hear about buying and selling real estate, get them on the horn, get them here to listen to this show. If you want to re-listen to it, you can go to our podcasts on any podcast platform, find The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush and Ken Pecus, and you can go to our YouTube channel and you can rewatch the show. All right, coming up next, more questions answered by Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST. Friend about this broadcast outreach, The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQ Law.
You're live.
Right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We got Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty, and he is the man. All real estate stuff goes through Ken. His number is 619-977-8419. And we're going to answer some questions. Actually, it's quite a thread that Ken passed along to me to talk about on the air today. So I'm going to ask a couple questions of him. That was one of our listeners, and they're great questions. So listen up on this. And again, if you want to hear this again, go to our podcast, which is The Word on Wealth, and you can find in any podcast platform. We've got hundreds of podcasts because we're doing this show 5 days a week. So if you want to re-listen to this one, just remember to look for the one with Ken Pecus. All right, Ken. So here's the thing is that basically this listener that was asking the question, they're basically saying, and I think I'll just say she, I know where I want to live. I follow comps. I see what agents are doing. And she says, it just seems like we're headed to recession. And yet you have all these agents that are really, really pushing to keep these prices really high. The prices are egregious. And I just feel like maybe it's this last push and all the agents are in this feeding frenzy to try to keep the prices high right before it crashes, and then they can all go on vacation or get a different career. That's kind of what I was reading out of that. But her response here, her continuation is AKA these prices that they're selling for are not supported by comps. So I want you to just address all of that in the regular Ken Pecus manner and help us understand what's going on.
Okay, I think it's such a valid question, and I'm so glad we're getting the time to address it. So one of the situations when you're in, it's when you're not in a stable market. You're either in an appreciating market or you're in a depreciating market. Like when we were in that market from 2009, 10, 11, there was definitely a drop going on. And at this moment, we're still in an appreciating market because of the supply demand inventory issues that we spoke to on the first half hour. So right now we're in that appreciation market. And when you're looking at comps, you have to understand and you have to recognize that comps are a lagging indicator. They indicate what has happened, not what is necessarily happening today. Sometimes you look at a comp that was, a house sold in March. It seems very recent. In March, it sold for a certain amount of money. And here we are in June now, and you're trying to ask what? And, I don't understand that one just sold for that. And how could you possibly ask that? So depending upon who you are on the buyer side, what your price point is, and the severity of the inventory shortage in your target market, this can be quite gigantic in your eyes. And so I think that's where you get to the concept that prices are egregious or just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. On some levels, you always get people that are just greedy. They see things go on. They see people selling and they go, well, if I could sell for 500,000 more, sell it. And then you'll get an agent says, oh, really? Well, let me try. There's no inventory on. I might as well try. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes in those situations is when you see something that is just out of kilter, just firmly out of kilter. But if you're a buyer in an appreciating market, which is what it is this very minute, just this moment in time, tomorrow could be different. I don't think it will be, but for right now, you have to look at it from a supply demand issue. So, and then you have to also look at it from, what if you were the seller? What if you were the owner and you're selling the property and something closed escrow for a certain price, a little while ago, and you see that things are all multiple offers, that type of thing. Put your brain into that seller's mode. And the reason you want to do that is because it'll give you an advantage over other buyers that are not. Because when you're in an appreciating market, sometimes the trick here is not that you're getting the lowest deal, it's that you're getting a deal. Because when you're in an appreciating market, getting a deal ultimately defines you just got the lowest deal because the next deal tends to go up. Okay. So I think there's a lot of people right now that are really feeling that pain. I think our listener was really feeling the pain. And in the price points that they indicated, it gives me pause that maybe the person that they're encountering, and if you're listening right now, is maybe more on the I'm being unreasonable side. And the only reason I say that is because the price point that they pointed out was in the upper 3 millions. And in those price points in those neighborhoods, there tends to be more inventory, and there tends to be inventory that's not moving as much, and there tends to be people that try to push value. So there, in those markets, Rancho Santa Fe, La Jolla, Del Mar, Coronado, where it's super high, I think there is a little bit more negotiation that seems logical, but still the people might just be selling because if they sell, I'll take it. If they don't sell, if I can't get this price, I might not take it. And that might be the factor. I encounter completely different situations, like back in 2009, 10, 11, when the market's going down, because then I have the sellers telling me, hey, the house just down the street 2 months ago, it sold for 600,000. And you're telling me I need to sell it for 580? And I don't get that.
Yeah.
And you go, well, yeah, because when they sold it for 600,000 a little while ago, there was 5 competing properties. And believe it or not, in the last 2 months, you now have 14 competing properties. They just come on. So you have to always keep track of the supply demand. And when you're looking at comps, no matter which market you're in, remember it's a lagging indicator. You have to look at what's happening with the activity for the neighborhood at that moment.
And I think I think some of it really seems to be we're getting, we want to buy a home and we think, okay, I want to buy something for 3 million. And I know these are, for some people, these numbers are just alarming. For some people, it's just like chump change, I guess. But I want to buy a house and my target price is 3 million. And I've been shopping and looking at things for like the last 6 or 8 months. And I know what I can afford. And I know the area that I like. And this is wonderful. And then you walk into the area and go, oh my gosh, that house is now $4 million. That's insane. That's crazy. I want to offer him 3. And I get what's going on. I mean, in the neighborhood, very recently, around where I live, there was a house right down the street and the market was really, really, I mean, it was crazy. People were just buying houses and they quite frankly bought the house and they paid it right after they bought the house. The market came back down. Literally all the neighborhood and even homes that sold in the area came down quite a bit lower, but they're not, sitting in their living room crying that, oh my gosh, we should have waited 6 months to buy this house. They're going, we got a house, because once you pull the trigger and say, okay, we're going to do this, you make it work. And if you look around and go, oh, my neighbor bought his house cheaper, or they got a different rate, or they got a better rate, or they drive a nicer car, you'll just go insane. So I think the one thing, and I, keep going on what you're talking about, but the one thing I want you to make sure that we get to is there was the question almost like, but I told my agent, I don't care if it's listed at 3.99. I want you to offer 3.5. And the agent says, I won't. And that to me, I don't understand that part. You can help me understand that one. If the agent says, absolutely not, I'm not going to do it. And I can understand from a buyer's perspective, you're trying to buy a house and the agent says, no, we're not going to offer that low. I don't do that kind of thing. I want you to address that too, as you kind of go through the explanation. You guys listening, Ken's number is 619-977-8419. If you want to call and get in on this conversation, I encourage you to do that now. 888-344-1170. All right, Ken, keep going.
2 minutes.
So with that concept with agents, so the first question about, are agents all in cahoots? Well, I'm sure there's some agents out there that do a little bit of talking between each other, whatever, but the reality is almost all real estate agents are independent contractors. So they work independently, and you can't really be in cahoots with other agents. First of all, it's against the law, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, you can't really discuss anything. And number two, if you do things like that, you're just going to be out of business pretty quickly. You have to put your fiduciary responsibilities to your clients at number one, and if people are doing that, you're going to get where you want to go. So to answer the question, I don't believe agents are in cahoots. I believe that might be how it might seem, but most people keeping prices up, especially up at prices that are not selling, does an agent no good, because an agent does not make any money, does not make any income to pay their own mortgage or whatever until a property sells. So it makes no sense to artificially keep prices up if it's not going to sell at that price.
Yeah, and I understand that it's the it does seem frustrating. You're trying to buy a home, you're thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to buy it for. Think about, and I think this is just kind of a little easier perspective, maybe, is think about if you tried to buy a car during the pandemic and it was all of a sudden used cars were more expensive than new cars, and it didn't make any sense. And then prices went up on cars 25%, and you wanted to buy a car. So you're just really ticked off. I was ready to buy that truck for 50,000 and it's 70,000. Now I'm just mad. There's something wrong with the industry. It's the market. You got to have a guy like Ken to help you understand so you can justify what you're doing. You can justify the cost of the purchase. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the how to work your agent thing. Ken's got some
we'll do
expert
that
opinion
next.
on that. We're going to do that coming up right next here on the Word on Wealth.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. So we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Right. All right, welcome to Word on Wealth. It's Wednesday. This is Real Estate Wednesday with Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. Ken's number is 619-977-8419. This guy has helped me so much professionally and personally and my family that couldn't recommend it anybody any higher than Ken. And we were talking we're going to go right to the top of the hour. Ken is talking specifically now. I asked him, well, what about my agent? If I hire Ken as a real estate agent and I say, Ken, I want to buy that house for $3 million. It's listed at $4 million. And I want you to go in and offer $3.1 million for that property. How does that work? Am I entitled to just say, hey, agent, you do what I say? Talk to us about that whole scenario.
Right. Okay. So just like an attorney, somebody can come in and say, hey, Gary, I want you to go do this, this, and this. And you'll say, well, that's nice, but I don't think you are pursuing the correct line. I think if I do this, what you're telling me to do this, I will get sanctioned by the bar and I can do this. And here, let me explain to you why I can't. And that's what you would go through an explanation, say, this is why I know this is what you want me to do, but this would endanger my future ability to make money, and this is why I can. And ideally, if you're dealing with a reasonable person on both sides, you can come to a meeting of the minds. The same thing applies to a real estate agent. If you're getting a real estate agent to represent you, counsel you, give you investment advice, and really be your go-to person in trying to make what is probably going to be one of the biggest financial decisions in your life, you need to spend some time understanding that person. And if you haven't already, you need to sit down with them. You need to talk. You need to make sure you're both coming from a frame of reference. So in this particular caller's situation, where the caller has, where the listener here has indicated they are very, very well versed in the comps of the neighborhood and what's going on, and they seem, from what I can tell, they seem to have a very good reason for why they wanted to offer what they wanted to offer. Well, if your agent, says that's too low, they're not negotiating, or they're not doing this or whatever, and says I can't write that offer, the first thing is that agent should be able to, if that agent is good, if that agent's professional, if that agent is competent, they should be able to come to you and say, hey, Gary, I know you want to write an offer for 3.5 million, and I see those comps, but here's why I don't believe they're going to negotiate. First of all, I had a conversation with the listing agent, and the agent told me this, this, and this, and that if they cannot sell it for at least this price, they're not going to actually be able to make the move into what they want to do. So it's not that your numbers are wrong, but this is the number they need. They could give you that kind of an explanation. They can give you, hey, I know you saw those comps, but you have to understand that comp was actually not the way it appears, because that comp was actually bought by a developer. They overpaid for the land because they're going to build 74 condos on it, so they could afford to overpay for what appears to be price per square foot for that particular property. Like if somebody came and asked me the exact same question, I would sit down and I would have to analyze their thought process on why they wanted to offer that. And if they are truly, together and understand the market, I'm going to come to pretty much the same kind of conclusion as they did. And then I would say, you know what? Why don't we take a shot at this? We'll write the offer. We'll write it at 3.5 million. We kind of know it's way off. We'll see, somebody else could just come out of the blue and offer, but let me go make a presentation to the other agent, to the seller. Let's try to get some understanding and see what their thought process is, because it doesn't seem logical. And at least by offering, we might get some kind of response just to see where it is. So that's how I would handle it. But I would have that conversation. Now, if I think the comps were really above 3.9 or 4.2 million, and you as my client are bringing me comps that you say, well, the comps are really 3.1 and 3.2. There's a reason why I don't think your comps are valid. I should be able to explain to you why I don't think those comps are valid. At that point, I would say, look, I have a professional reputation. I can't go and bluff. I can't make a case on this based on that, because that's not valid, and I don't agree if it's valid. And I know the other agent on the other side, and the other agent is a very competent, well-respected agent. And part of my longevity in this business is that when I bring a deal to another agent or another seller, my reputation precedes me, and they put a welcome mat so that they talk to me, because they know I'm not going to come in and give them a bunch of garbage. So I know we're clients. I cannot submit this offer for you. If you want to submit a higher offer, I could, but that doesn't stop you. If you really feel strongly about this offer, I encourage you to get somebody else to write that offer for you and or go to the listing agent. I just don't believe in your price. And
I think, Ken, the point
I would treat it.
The point though is that if you have somebody, it's this way with attorneys, tax professionals, real estate professionals. It's like you have to be able to trust your real estate professional, and trust what they're doing. And I think that requires a big, that's a big responsibility of the agent to say, look, here's the way it works. Now, I know that you've done that with me, and it was like, when it's a piece of commercial property, you say, here's why I think it's be worth this much. And you go through the whole explanation, and you don't treat me like I'm, some, child and I can't understand it. Just talk over my head and say, trust me. I just do not do that with people.
Oh, yeah.
You go and you explain, and it's not like selling it to your client, but technically it's really saying, look, here's why I think this would work. And I think we should do between this and this. And then you kind of price it exactly right. But I think, and this is an answer, in response to our listener that asks these questions, it's like, have your agent give you an explanation, and it should be really a convincing reason, logically thought out, and explain to you on why that won't work. And it's just not an appropriate thing to do under the current market conditions. If they're that good of an agent and they can explain that to you, then they're going to be able to explain it to the seller. It's the same thing. And I found that more and more often, where it's like, if I'm going to you and saying, Ken, I want you to sell this house for me, and I want you to do it. I want you to charge me a 2% commission. And then you go, okay. It's like, wait a minute. If I came to you and said, I want you to charge me a lower commission. I want a 50% discount on commission because I talked to this person over here, and immediately he told me he would take a cut in his commission. And your response to me is, well, that's interesting, Gary. If you're going and he was willing to negotiate his commission instantaneously, reduce it, how good is he going to be when he's in the negotiating chair with the buyer? How is that going to work?
A little desperation to me.
Yeah, it sounds a little desperate, and they're going to be desperate for the sale. They're going to be desperate, whatever. So it's like, I really think it's a matter, if you have an agent and you're not comfortable with what they're doing, and they need to be able to explain it to you. It's the same thing with attorneys. If you can't get an explanation at whatever level you're at, super cerebral or very basic, a real professional can explain to anyone the concept and why and the reasoning and understanding, and have that negotiation and back and forth with you so that you can understand where they're coming from and they can understand where you're coming from. That's the back and forth. That's the negotiation. That's the basically this conversation you need to have so that you understand and you get it, so you can get behind it, or they can get behind you. But really, it's so true though. There's so many people like, look, I've been doing this a long time. Just trust me. Okay. Just trust me. That's not a good number for me. I turn around and I go, okay, this is garbage. I'm not taking anybody that says, just trust me. Because I just, it's not that I don't trust anybody. I just, that's not good enough for me. It's just not good enough.
2 minutes.
On this particular example that the listener brought to the table, my answer is the agent's answer is, if that's all that was answered, if that's, it's because there's no negotiation going on. If that is literally the only answer that person got, that is a completely unacceptable answer. And I think if I was her or him, I would rethink who's representing me and make sure I get more aligned with the person that's representing my interest, especially if I'm as well versed and educated in what's going on in the neighborhoods I want to live in. I would want an agent that could be reasonably well versed and educated in how to communicate with me.
Exactly.
So that we could both talk on a and it's not like an agent is not, it's not like an indentured servant. It's not, if somebody, for myself personally, I can
Add a minute.
If somebody was thinking I'm an order taker and you can just, tell me, go do this, Ken, go do this. It'll never work with me. That's not my style. I'm sure there's people that can do it. No. But if you want a conversation and you want understanding and you want explanation and dialogue, then we work together.
100%. And my biggest solution for anybody is, it's really easy. Call Ken at kenpecus.com, 619-977-8419. Ken, as always, my Wednesday is my very favorite day to talk to my very favorite real estate expert. I really appreciate you being on today and answering the question and being so careful and thorough with your answer. And I appreciate the way you do business, the way you deal with people. And I hope everybody gives you a call, 619-977-8419. All right. Thanks, Ken. Really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. All right. Bye, everybody. If you want to get a hold of me, you know the number, 855-500-TRUST. All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow with Anthony Wright, Money Man, on the Word on Wealth.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995, with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future.
The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs. The opinion